For us, it is an honor to have you around here. Our wish is that the secrets of the sages of ancient India, taught by the renowned yogi Sadhguru, be a powerful tool of self-transformation in your inner journey. Get to know our yoga course by clicking on the link that is in the description of this video and learn more.
Pain is a good thing physically, because that is your preservation, self-preservation mechanism. But suffering is something that you do in your mind. So pain that happens in your body, you take it in your mind and multiply it 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times depending on how capable you are, and suffer it 1,000,000 times over. Right now, most human beings are like this. What happened 10 years ago, they can still suffer. What may happen day after tomorrow, they already suffer. They are not suffering life, they think they're suffering life. They are not suffering life, they are suffering the two most fantastic faculties that human beings alone have, a vivid sense of memory and a fantastic sense of imagination.
Hey everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Today's guest is a mystic and New York Times best-selling author who has built one of the largest nonprofit organizations in the world. Named one of the 50 most influential people in all of India, not bad considering the country has 1.3 billion people. He has been invited to speak at some of the most prestigious international conferences on the planet, including the World Peace Summit, the United Nations, and the World Economic Forum. His mission is to raise every human being to the peak of their potential, and to that aim, he established the Isha Foundation, which, with headquarters in both India and the US, has implemented several large-scale human service projects designed to uplift rural areas, help with education reform and environmental stewardship, as well as holistic and healthy living. He's also written several profoundly transformational books, including Inner Engineering, A Yogi's Guide to Joy, and Adi Yogi, The Source of Yoga. So please, help me in welcoming the contemporary spiritual leader with millions of global followers, the man who has cracked irreverent jokes everywhere from MIT to Google on things both mystical and highly practical, the uncompromising Sadhguru. Come after. How you doing? Welcome. I am beyond excited to have you on the show. Going and looking at what you're trying to accomplish in the world is very much in line with what we're trying to do in terms of human potential, which I think is super exciting, but we go about it in very different ways. And reading your book, I was really impacted. And so getting to dive deeper into this, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I think the first place to start, walk me through what you mean by potential. Like what do you think is human potential?
So every creature, from a worm, insect, bird, plant, tree, everybody, all of them are trying to be full-fledged lives. If one sees what's happening beneath the earth in terms of the root systems, it is an enormous effort for a plant or a tree to become a full-fledged tree. Well, an apple tree is not trying to be an oak tree, but an apple tree wants to be a full-fledged apple tree. That effort is on in every life. So is it in human beings. But the problem with humanity is just this, that for every other creature, nature has drawn two lines. Within these two lines, they live and die. So their idea of full-fledged is hitting the ceiling of their life. But if a human being hits a ceiling, he gets frustrated and miserable because nature, this process of evolution has delivered to us to a place where there is only the bottom line, there is no top line, though some human beings are trying to breach the bottom line and go below that effort also is going on So essentially, what human life is when life was in the other forms of life that you see on the planet, nature determined a certain compulsive, instinctive ways of functioning. Once you become human, these lines have been removed. You can act consciously. That means What you call as human potential is not of any kind of measurable limit. It can go as far as you desire or as far as you have the courage to walk. So when we say human potential, unleashing human potential, it is not about reaching the peak, it is a trajectory. Because what our life is a combination of a certain amount of time and energy. Time is rolling away for all of us at the same pace. If you sit, it rolls away, if you sleep, it rolls away, if you do something, it goes away, if you don't do anything, it goes away. You're happy or miserable, it goes away. Time is running out for all of us. So it's only the energy that you can do different things with. If you bring your energies to a certain level of intensity and possibility, what somebody does in 10 years, you may do it in 1 year. This means if you live here for 100 years, it feels like in people's impact that you've created, it feels like you lived here for 1,000 years, simply because you have managed your life energies in a certain way. So for me, a human being impactful means, how conscious have you become? This is very important. Because if you're in compulsive cycles, then your energy gets wasted in so many things. If you observe people in a day, let's take 24 hours, in that anyway most people by prescription in America they sleep for 8 hours So 8 hours means 1/3 of life is gone. In the remaining 2/3 they have to eat, they have to, shower, bathroom, this, that, all this, another 2-3 hours gone. So literally 50% of life is gone, daily basis, just for basic maintenance of this life. 50% of the time is gone in maintenance, the remaining 50% what they have, if you look at every single move that they may make with their body, their thought process, their emotions, you will see a whole lot of it is happening in compulsive cycles. Or in other words, if you are little sensitive to life, you will realize you are the biggest issue in your life. So this is one thing that I'm trying to do with people, that you are never the issue in your life. I'm not the issue. My thought, my emotion, my body is never the issue. My thought, my emotion, my energy and my body are my instruments of function. They are not impediments in my life. But I would say for 90% of the human beings, their own body, then the compulsions of the body, the compulsions of their thought, the compulsions of their emotions are ruling them most of the time. So when you yourself are a problem, well, you're on self-help.
So how do you begin to break out of that? Like if we're all stuck in these compulsive patterns, how do you gain the consciousness that you're talking about and begin to, I don't know if the words go beyond, elevate, like how do you stop being in that endless cycle?
Everybody wants a solution, but nobody wants to delve into the problem and see what is the nature of the problem that we have. The nature of the problem is like this. Why are we compulsive? What is it that's compulsive about us? Compulsion means we are going to the same place again and again. That means we are going in circles. The nature of physical existence in the universe is such, whether you take an atom, an individual atom, or the cosmic space, everything that's physical is always in cyclical movement. The atoms are doing their circles, the solar system is doing its stuff, the galaxies are doing their stuff, our own bodies are going through cycles. In fact, we are born because of the cycles in our mother's bodies, that's why we are born. So, entire physical nature is born out of cyclical movement, that means compulsiveness. So do not misunderstand compulsiveness as something bad, it is the basis of your existence. It is a good platform, but you're supposed to stand on the platform and act. Right now you have become the platform, so somebody else will dance on you.
Interesting. That's so my thing, and part of what drives me is getting efficient at achieving your goal, which I'm sure is less than thrilling for you. So for me, I am interested in actually executing on my potential. So transferring my ability to do something into the actual thing. So the easy example I give people is if
what does impact mean for you? Leaving a footprint?
Not quite. So I have a very specific kind of impact that I'm trying to have, which is to help people actuate their potential. So I think that a lot of people, they are capable of extraordinary things, and I think that to your point about joy, I think one of the things that's absolutely foundational to joy is growth. And so getting people on a path where they believe they can
say
grow.
it that way?
That's
Why is
just,
growth foundational to joy? Joy is foundational to growth, isn't it?
Probably, yes. But I don't have an insight as to what came first, which is exactly why you're here.
No, there is substantial medical and scientific evidence to show that only when you're in a pleasant state of experience, your body and your brain works at its best. There's no argument about that. There's enough evidence to show that. So whatever impact or success or reaching goals or growth or whatever you say, on one level in the physical world, it's about how well you harness your physiological and your psychological process, isn't it? Whether your body and mind works against you or works for you, this is a big difference. So there is enough evidence to show only when you're in pleasant levels of experience, this happens best. So obviously, joy is first, then growth. If you're joyful constantly and you have no fear of suffering because you understand all human experience comes from within you, and so you have managed to create the kind of experience that you want, now growth is possible unbridled. If you have the fear of falling down and suffering, you will not go very high, isn't it?
So how do you work through that? How do you help people on that path?
Many ways to look at it. One of the simplest ways to see it is all human experience has a chemical basis to it. Right now, let us say you're joyful. If you look at your chemistry, it'll be in a certain way. Let's say you're miserable. If you check your chemistry, it'll be a completely different way. Now we have a technology that with which you create a chemistry of blissfulness. So my chemistry is blissful, doesn't matter what's happening. The drama around me is happening in so many different ways, but this is a privilege that I've kept for myself. Me being joyful or miserable, me being peaceful or disturbed, these privileges I have not given it to anybody else, I kept them to myself. I think every human being should do that. That the privileges of the nature of your experience must be in your hand. Because when you try to act in the world, there are many forces. All of them will not always cooperate. Sometimes they cooperate, many times they will not cooperate, many times they'll turn against you. This is the nature of the world, that's how it should be. World will never happen 100% your way, and I'm glad it is so, because if it all happened your way, where do I go? I'm glad it's not happening your way. Little bit my way, little bit your way, little bit somebody else's way. That's how the world should be.
It's very interesting. Is there a way to avoid falling into those traps? Like, I know that you've taken some very different approaches, at least from an American set of eyes, to raising your daughter and not wanting to put a lot of teachings on her. Is that to avoid dogma? Is it to avoid closing doors because you think you know something? Like, how do we, if we were gonna have kids and raise them in a way that stopped them from falling into some of these traps, what would we do?
How many parents would dare and encourage their children not to be identified with parents, not to be identified with the religion that they follow, not to be identified with their racial and national and other prejudices that they hold? They all think these things are sacred, isn't it?
Yes.
These are the things which destroy human potential. Whether you want to turn a human being… See, I see this term and it really hurts me when people say, it's very common, only in America I hear this, I was raised as whatever, Catholic or Baptist or Christian or Muslim or whatever else I was raised. See, you must raise only cattle and sheep. You don't raise human beings. You have to cultivate a human being. You have to give space and give support of love and support so that a human being grows, because every human being is capable of a unique possibility. Raising means what? A flock is what you raise. You don't raise an individual, isn't it?
It's very interesting.
So, for this, we need to come to a certain level of maturity within ourselves. The most fundamental thing is, our children need not look like us, need not think like us, need not act like us, need not be us in any way. A child is not a legacy, it's a life. And it's an individual life. It has to be what it has to be. Well, if I do not influence, right now the fear is, if I do not influence, somebody on the street will influence the child. On the social media, they'll influence the child. So to cultivate a child so that they know that the intrinsic intelligence and being human is more important than being influenced by this or that, it doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's parentage, or it's a priest, or it's a guru, or it's a pandit, it doesn't matter who. Influence is not important. What is important is the intrinsic intelligence finding its full potential.
And do you think as we grow up in a modern context that we can avoid adopting those beliefs? You talked one time, I thought this was so interesting, about how every time you get a belief, it's like a conclusion, and every conclusion is a death unto itself, and it's like shutting a door on something.
Yes, otherwise, see, you just see, you look at your own picture when you were 5 years of age, it's like this. Slowly it's becoming like this. What is it? You're dying in installments. The more conclusions you make, the less alive you become. This is all that's happened to people. They call this knowledge. This is not knowledge. This is just conclusions that you're drawing about everything. See, with all this scientific exploration, the fact is that even today, we do not know one single atom in its entirety. We know how to use them. We know how to use everything on this planet, but we don't know a damn thing about anything. Over 90% or 99% of an atom is empty. We don't know what that emptiness contains. Over 99% of the cosmos is empty. We don't know what that is. So, this is like I give you a 1,000,000-piece jigsaw, but you found in your hands, you have only 3 of them. With these 3, you make a picture and you're euphoric that you made a picture. Well, I'm sorry, there are 1,000,000 pieces to this. Has anybody gathered all the pieces? Then don't make a picture.
You've talked about the only way to really make change is to turn inward. As we look inward, turn inward, go inward, what are we working on awareness, consciousness? Like, what is the…
See, right now, what are the instruments of your experience? You know you're here only because you can see, hear, smell, taste and touch. This is the only way you know that you're here right now. Suppose you doze off, don't, okay? Suppose you doze off. You don't know that you're here, isn't it? Yes. Even though you're here, your heart is beating, everything is functioning, the world is on, we are all here, but you won't know that you're here, nor will you know that I'm here or anybody else is here, isn't it?
Yes.
All that's happened is, life is on, full on, even within you. Only thing is, these 5 sensory organs have shut down. So your entire experience of life right now is happening because you can see, hear, smell, taste and touch. Just look at the nature of the sensory organs. In the very nature, they're outward bound, isn't it? Can you roll your eyeballs inward and scan yourself?
No.
Shall I give you a bad example?
Sure.
Our nose is located right above our mouth. Suppose you don't brush your teeth for 3 days. Though this nose is right here, it won't tell you you have not brushed your teeth. The whole room will know you have not brushed your teeth, but you will not know. This is the human predicament. It's very easy to see what's wrong with this guy, what's wrong with her, what's wrong with her. It takes a lot of observation to see what's wrong with this. That level of keenness of observation is missing in most people. They need to cultivate that.
And so it's tempting to, when reading your book and hearing your story, it's tempting to say, oh, this is how he cultivated that, whether it's sitting in the tree that was swaying and then doing swaying meditation. Is that actually how you cultivated it, or is there something else? Because somebody watching right now, they want to be able to begin to access this. And if it's a simple letting go of belief and dogma, or if it's
right now, it's
awareness
me versus the universe.
self.
Letting go of
This
belief
is
and
just
dogma
your
is not
psychological
condition. This is not the reality.
It's not.
Even when you feel
People
utterly lonely, are you
who they
still
are
breathing?
only because of what they
So you're
believe
transacting
and what
with
they
the world,
are.
isn't
Held
it?
like that.
Yes?
Because
you only
without
can't
this,
get
they
along with the
don't know
people
where to
around you.
belong.
But atmosphere is
live
okay
here
with you,
without belonging
food
to
is
anything.
okay, if
But
it
still
tastes good.
involved with everything.
Water is okay.
Takes a
You
lot.
have transaction with the
Most
world,
people
isn't it?
belong, but they're not involved.
Your existence is
is like
constantly an
belonging.
engagement with
It's
the
like an
universe.
insurance policy.
But your mind
It's simply there.
becomes against the
Involvement
universe.
takes you.
If you create a
To be
psychological
constantly involved
condition
with people around
that you're
you,
against
It
or
takes you to be conscious
you're in
and
competition
on.
with the universe
But
or the
I belong to
cosmos,
you.
obviously
I don't have to do
feel
anything,
crushed for small
I've professed
things.
already I belong to you.
Little things
I'm married to
will
you.
crush you.
I belong to you.
When I say
Legally
little things,
settled.
maybe
So I don't have to be conscious of you,
you
nor
failed
do I
your
have to be involved
examination.
with you, still I belong to you.
maybe you
So
got thrown
belonging
out of this university.
means belonging,
Maybe you got fired
believing,
from a job.
or
Maybe somebody ditched you.
identifying simply means
Maybe
you have found
something
a way
else like
to
this
sleep
happened.
through your life.
These are all small
It's
things
called sleep.
between life and death.
When we say,
Because
people
you came
usually
here
use
with
this
nothing,
term with,
isn't it?
animals.
When
if
you
said,
die, there
"We
is no
put our
container
cat
service
to
for
sleep,"
you. You die
does
with
it
nothing. In spite of that,
real, but they
most people have
their
turned
cat.
their
Yes.
homes into warehouses.
So I'm talking
Most
about
people are
sleep
carrying
that-
such a huge baggage on their head,
I believe
as if
this,
they're carrying the whole
I belong
universe
to
on their
this,
head.
I'm identified with this means
This is their own psychological
sleep.
condition.
that
Your
means
thought
you're
and
actually
emotion
dead.
is what you're talking about,
Made
right?
conclusions, which takes away the life that bubbles within you.
When are you going
This
to
is why
figure out
people are
how
walking
to
around
handle
like,
your thought and emotion?
they're dying in
Not
insomnias.
hers, not his, yours.
Yeah,
When
so
are you going
the
to
notion
learn how to
of
handle my
not
thought and my
knowing,
emotion?
The notion
end of your life?
responsibility.
The
are
only
two
problem
things that
really
are-
with life
are
is just this.
Really powerful.
Most
Can I
human
just
beings
correct
have
the
taken
question?
themselves
Yeah,
too
yeah.
seriously. They
Not
don't
knowing is
understand.
not an emotion, it's a fact.
You've seen on the computer screen these pop-ups?
It's not a notion, you really do not know.
You are a
damn
pop-up
thing.
on this planet. You pop up for 2 seconds and pop out.
We don't even
No,
know
no,
where
you
the
must see,
blossoms and time.
countless
We do not
number
know
of
a single
people like
atom
you
in
and me have walked this
We do
planet.
not know a single
They were
cell
also
in
big
this
people.
body in its
Where are they?
complete context.
All
We do not.
topsoil?
We know some things,
Topsoil or no?
manipulate a few things.
Or maybe you're
We
planning to
don't
go
know
to heaven.
much about it. So, it's like this. Let's say we turn off all the lights.
Right now, it's me versus
If
the
the lights
universe.
are on, you
This
can
is
whistle
just
and
your
just walk around
psychological
wherever you
condition.
want in this building.
This is not the reality.
We'll turn off all
Even
the
when you
lights and
feel
make it
utterly
pitch
lonely,
dark
are
where
you still
can't even
breathing?
see your own hand like that.
So you're transacting with the world,
Now,
isn't it?
every step that you take,
Yes,
will you take
you
it
only
with
can't get along with the
most
people around
alertness?
you. But atmosphere is okay
Will you
with
be
you.
fully
Food is
awake or
okay
asleep?
if it tastes good. Water is okay.
Fully awake. Why?
You have
Because you
transaction
don't know
with
where
the
the
world,
next step
isn't it?
Just
Your
to live like
existence is
you
constantly
simply
an
live like
engagement
this,
with the universe. But
naturally
your
you are on the
mind
highway to
becomes
enlightenment.
against the universe.
Everybody assume
If you create a
believe
psychological
because
condition
it's
that you're
comfortable.
against or you're in competition
simply believe
with the
something.
universe or the
The
cosmos,
very word belief
obviously
means
you will
this,
feel crushed for small
that I have
things.
concretized
Little things
assumptions
will
of
crush
which
you.
I know nothing about.
When I say little things, maybe
Isn't it
you
so?
failed your examination,
Either you know
maybe
or you do not know.
you got thrown out of
Where
this
does the belief
university.
come from?
Maybe
When
you got fired
pretend
from a
what you do
job,
not know as I know,
maybe somebody
That's belief.
ditched you,
but you
Maybe
can't believe something all by
something else
yourself.
like this happened.
So
These
you
are
need
all
100
small
people
things
around you. That's why
between life and
always
death.
believers are in groups.
Because you
Seekers
came
are
here with
alone.
nothing, isn't it?
Talk to me about a seeker.
When you
What
die,
is a
there is
seeker?
no
Is
container
that something
service for
useful
you.
to cultivate?
You die with nothing.
You don't have to
In spite
cultivate
of that,
this is intrinsic
most
to human
people
intelligence.
have turned their
If you
homes
do
into
not bullshit
warehouses.
yourself with
Most
all
people are
kinds of
carrying
things
such
that
a
you do
huge
not
baggage
know as
on
you
their
know,
head as if they're carrying the
it's
whole universe
intrinsic
on
to
their
human
head.
intelligence to seek.
This is their own psychological condition.
You don't have to teach seeking.
Your
You have
thought
to
and
teach
emotion
belief
is what you're
systems.
talking about,
You don't
right?
have to teach seeking. If you don't teach anything, everybody
When are you
is a
going to
seeker.
figure out how
It
to
is the
handle
nature
your
of
thought
human
and
intelligence.
emotion? Not
It
hers,
naturally
not
seeks.
hers, not his, yours.
But people want to seek
When are
with the
you going to
comfort of
learn
belief.
how to handle my
They want
thought
to be in
and
the
my
belief
emotion
system and
at the
then
end of your
seek.
life?
This is like
The only
tying your
problem really with
boat
life is just
to
this.
the pier and
Most
then
human beings have taken themselves
rowing
too
hard.
seriously.
It's good, it's
They
not
don't
bad
understand.
because it gives you good exercise. It's
You've
like
seen
being
on
on
the
the
computer
treadmill.
screen these pop-ups.
Most people are on the treadmill because
You are a
they are
pop-up on
not
this
walking
planet.
or running
You
to
pop
go
up
somewhere.
for 2 seconds and
They're
pop
just
out.
trying to tone
No,
their
no,
muscles.
you must see,
It's perfectly
countless number of people
So
like
if
you
that's
and
all you
me
wish
have
to do, it's
walked
fine.
this planet.
But if you want
They
to
were
go
also big
somewhere,
people.
you can't tie
Where are
your
they?
boat and then row, isn't
All
it? If you just let
topsoil?
it go, even if you don't row, it will
Topsoil or
go.
no? Or maybe you're
What do you
planning
tell
to go
people
to
about
heaven.
responsibility?
Hello?
It's just your ability to respond. You have to make up your mind. Do you want to retain your ability to respond to every situation that may arise or may not arise in your life? Or do you want to surrender your
Anybody
ability to respond?
who talks
This is
about a
something
place
everybody should make up their mind on.
other than this
Do you
place
have
has a better
practices
place
to
than
keep
this,
yourself so open and so joyful?
this is a crime against
Right.
humanity.
That's it.
My
What
fundamental work
Life
is
an
to destroy
openness.
all heavens
Death is
so that
closing,
people will learn
isn't
to
it?
live well here.
Death is a closure.
All these
Life
idiots
is a
who made a
possibility.
hell out of themselves,
If you're just
they want to
alive,
go to heaven.
Everything is open.
They made a mess out of
Tell
this
me,
place and then
can
they
you
want to
be
go
alive?
to heaven. I'm
Suppose you
asking
don't
you,
like me.
do you have any proof?
So you don't want to inhale
Do you
what I
have
say.
any proof that
Stop
you are
breathing
not
and
already in
exist
heaven
for
and
some
messing
time.
it up?
Let me see, possible?
Do you have any proof?
Stop breathing.
For a little.
You're already in heaven, making a mess out of it. Yes,
How is little?
simply
How much is
because
little for you?
you are
hold
not
my
even
breath.
learning how to handle your basic
10
faculties
seconds,
of
10
thought and
minutes?
emotion,
Definitely not.
isn't it? Your only
saying, if you
justification
don't
is,
like me,
everybody is
your
like this
dislike
only.
will not go
That's how
away
it is in a
10
madhouse.
seconds, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is how it is in a
Suppose
madhouse,
I
only
hate
a
you.
doctor looks crazy.
I don't want to breathe, inhale what you exhale.
So when are you going to handle it?
I will die within
Slowly,
myself, isn't
at
it?
the age of 60?
This is all people are doing to themselves.
asking.
I like this guy, I don't like that guy, this is somebody I love, that's somebody I hate, this is belongs to me, this doesn't belong to me. They're just killing themselves, step by step. They are planning to die in installments. If you want to live, here you are. You must make up your mind whether you want to live or you want to die. You want to know the certainty of death in life. This is called belief, this is called belonging, this is called identification, because you are trying to find the certainty of death in the seamless process of life.
It's very interesting. When you spend a lot of time speaking, what do you hope people take away? Is there one core thing that you really want people to be touched by?
Fundamentally, if people understand that the source of human experience is within you, joy or misery, agony or ecstasy, pleasure or pain, everything comes from within you. If you understand this much, if I understand, suppose right now I think I'm miserable because of you, there's no solution for my life, isn't it? Because all you have to do is walk in front of my home, I will become miserable. So simple it is. You don't have to kill me, you just have to walk around in front of me. I will die within myself every day. If I understand the source of my joy and misery are within me, then you know what's the obvious choice?
Sure.
It's an obvious choice, isn't it? So this one fundamental thing has to get across to all the human beings on this planet. Your experience is entirely determined by you. This is what the word karma means, unfortunately. It's become something else here. Karma means action. That means when we say your life is your karma, we are saying your life is entirely your making, 100%. What happens in the world, there are many, many forces involved. What happens within me
It's 100% me. 100%, isn't it? If you don't take charge of this, then you're an accidental life. When you're an accidental life, anxiety is very natural. Natural, isn't it? Suppose you're driving accidentally, that is, you don't know what's happening and you're simply somehow going. Anxiety is natural or not?
Yes.
Any accidental movement creates anxiety. So this is why consciousness means this, that you have taken charge of the instruments of life, which on most fundamental level is our physiological and psychological space. You've taken charge of this. Now your health, your happiness, your joy, your ecstasy, your misery, everything is in your hands. You exercise them as you want.
Going back to what you said about focus, in your book you talk about something I thought was so interesting, to set the faucet to a certain drip rate and do nothing but focus on the dripping of the faucet for like 7 minutes or something.
The idea is to pay attention to something which has no relevance to you. See, people have divided the universe. This is important, this is not important. This person is important for me, this person is not important. This is important for me, that's not important for me. You divided the universe. You will never know anything this way. Indiscriminate focus, indiscriminate attention. I am not attending to you because you are somebody with a cobra in your heart, all right? It doesn't matter who I speak to, who I am with, I'm the same way. Indiscriminate. Only when your attention and involvement is indiscriminate does the universe open up to you. You have discriminated, naturally you close. You know, people come to me and say, Sadhguru, I want to walk the spiritual path. I say, okay, be here for 3 days, let's see what we can do. So, no Sadhguru, day after tomorrow, my uncle's daughter's birthday, I have to go. Oh, you want to get enlightenment? And day after tomorrow, uncle's daughter's birthday also, all right. We got 1.5 days. You do one thing, you do this, this and this. I say, Sadhguru, but I don't like this. All right, I'll give them a small piece of paper and say, okay, write down things that you like, we'll do that. You won't believe it, in this entire universe, most people like only 3 or 4 things. When you're so constipated in your head that you like only 3 or 4 people or 3 or 4 things in your life, how do you want to open up to the existence? Because life is happening because of its openness. This is a fundamental difference between death and life is, people are thinking it's just breath, all right, on one level. That is also openness. Whether you allow this to happen or you don't allow it to happen, whether you did it consciously or unconsciously, but it's happening, isn't it? Openness is on every subatomic particle, is in communication with everything. That's why this is going on. Breath is happening, so much is happening in connection with everything. It is only in openness you're alive. As you close doors, you're dying in installments. Dying in installments is torture. See, life is fantastic if you're alive and fully alive. If you're dead, it's good, at least the neighbors may think so. This may sound very not so compassionate, but I'm saying, everybody dies, you and me will die, all right? If you're dead, the game is over. But if you're half dead, oh, this is endless torture to yourself. When you are being tortured, of course you'll share it with everybody else.
Talk to me about your motorcycle accident and having to have your calf sewed back together, which is without anesthesia. How is that possible?
I'm not that young anymore. Today I would take anesthesia. Those were wild days.
But the notion of the difference between pain and suffering I thought was very useful.
See, pain is physiological, it's there. If there's no pain, most people would not even know how to protect themselves. See, just because there's no pain in this, see what all you have done to it. See, there's no pain in this, so that's why you took it off. If there's no pain in your nose, maybe you would have taken it off. Because there are many advantages, you will take in about 22% extra oxygen if you just remove this one thing, contraption. Wherever there is no pain, people are messing with it like crazy, isn't it? They call this hairstyle, they call it so many things. Suppose there was no pain in the entire body in Los Angeles, people would pull out their stomach bag and you think they wouldn't do it?
No, probably would.
Only pain is helping them to preserve themselves, isn't it? So pain is good. There's no physiological pain. Most people would not know. I hear in United States there's one group, they call themselves something, I forget that word. They're actually cutting their fingers off, their hands off on the video.
Whoa.
They're posting it online. There's a group like that.
Whoa.
Can you imagine this?
No.
In spite of so much pain, if there was no pain, almost everybody would have cut themselves off in the name of fashion, they would have cut themselves into ribbons. So pain is a good thing physically, because that is your preservation, self-preservation mechanism. But suffering is something that you do in your mind. So pain that happens in your body, you take it in your mind and multiply it 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times, depending on how capable you are or how stupid you are, and suffer it 1,000,000 times over. Right now, most human beings are like this. What happened 10 years ago, they can still suffer. What may happen day after tomorrow, they already suffer. They are not suffering life, they think they're suffering life. They are not suffering life, they are suffering the two most fantastic faculties that human beings alone have, a vivid sense of memory and a fantastic sense of imagination.
Why do you think that depression and anxiety, suicide are so rampant right now?
See, one thing is, the survival process has become easier than ever before. Believe me, in the morning if you need a bucket full of water, if you had to walk a mile to the river to get one bucket of water, and your family needed 25 buckets of water, you would have no time to mess yourself. Now you have a lot of time to mess yourself because our survival is better organized than ever before. Another thing is, most human beings do not know how to manage their biochemistry without physical activity. I've seen a whole lot of people, particularly teenage boys and girls between the ages of 12 and 16, who come to me with some severe, violent problems within themselves. If you leave them like that, they may kill themselves or kill somebody else, they're in that kind of state. Many of them have even killed their parents, it just happened all over the world. And in 2017, when I came to know that in India, which is not so much suicidal in that sense because there's a huge family support and stuff like that, in spite of that, in 2017, 18,600 children below 18 years of age committed suicide, out of which 7,200 are below 15 years of age. So 12, 13, 14-year-olds who must be bubbling with life are wanting to take their own lives. Why? Obviously we're doing something fundamentally wrong with the society, isn't it?
Yes.
Our goals and our stupid ideas of what is success is driving them nuts. Because we are trying to use our children like racehorses.
That's interesting. And when you say that as something that represent us, that we've turned into something amazing, or in what way are they like racehorses?
See, when you understand life as a race, if you're in a race, what's the objective? You must reach the finish line quick, isn't it?
Yes.
What is the finish line of your life?
Death.
There you have it. This may not be a conscious process, but life within you is understanding it like that. When you… see, you must understand this, whether you are conscious of it or not, any human being. Right now, if you make yourself miserable, you must understand you are sending a message to every cell in the body that I don't want to live. You might not have articulated it in your head yet, but when you become miserable, you notice suddenly your body seems heavy and it's like, doesn't want to get up from this chair. Have you seen this?
Yes.
When you're happy,
You're willing to bounce at everything and do everything, bend backwards if necessary. Why this is happening is the message has gone to every cell in the body, this guy wants to die. They're all thinking, okay, what can we do to help him? But by then, of course, you'll recover. So you want to die, you want to live, you want to die, you want to live. The body is getting confused because you must understand this is a very intelligent body. It's taking instructions from you. Every cell in the body has an enormous sense of memory and intelligence. If you keep sending wrong messages, if they act, you're dead. Because you're sending contradictory messages, you're not dead, you're half dead. You can give it any number of exotic names. Essentially, you have turned your intelligence against yourself. This is supposed to work for you, but now you've turned it against yourself, it's working against you.
Yeah, I know I'm putting words in your mouth, which is very dangerous, but the whole notion of being half dead, I feel like you really address how to live fully in your book, Inner Engineering, which I was just really impacted by. If you had to define what inner engineering is exactly, how would you say it?
See, do you agree with me that our lives today as a generation of people has become far more comfortable and far more convenient simply because of our understanding of science and our exploitation of that knowledge as technology?
Yes.
We are the most comfortable generation ever in the history of humanity, no question about it, isn't it?
Yes.
We are super empowered because of this science and technology. As there is a science and technology for our external well-being, there is a whole science and technology for inner well-being. Unfortunately, most cultures have ignored this and thinking that if we make all the external arrangements well, everything will be okay. United States of America is a huge statement that this is not how it works. The most affluent country on the planet, 70% of the population are supposed to be on prescription medication.
Wow. What's the best way for people to interact with you?
They don't have to interact with me because…
To learn from you.
Because we can talk, if inspiration is what you need, encouragement was what you need, I'm willing to talk. But talks will not bring solutions. They will bring some clarity. Solution will come only when you take a proper inward step. That's what inner engineering process is. We are doing everything possible to deliver it in as simple and as practical measures as it can be done. There was a time it was taught in such a complex way. Today we have simplified it, broken into 5 different pieces, offering it as 5 layers of program so that people can experience it in small doses and slowly, step by step, they can go. I'm seeing as you come into more and more affluent societies, their steps are far more baby steps than other people. So, we have broken it into many steps so that small steps you can take one by one.
And your website is the best place for that?
Yes, it's a good place to go.
Perfect.
Isha.sadhguru.org, that's what it's called.
Okay, and we'll link to that as well.
Our organization is 100% volunteer organization. So we are not professional in our approach, and I'm very proud of that because I'm not interested in how much somebody is doing. I'm very interested in how they're doing it because that's what changes the quality of who we are. Because the content of our life will not change our life. It is the context of our life which changes our life.
That's interesting, very interesting.
Because your content you have changed and you see people are not happy. Content of our life is phenomenally enhanced compared to how our grandparents lived here, isn't it? Even in this country.
Yes. How can people change their context?
That's what inner engineering is about. If your context shifts from your psychological and physiological process to the life process that you are, everything has changed. Because we must understand this. As we sit here,
This is my body, that's your body. This is my mind, that's your mind. But there's no such thing as this is my life and that's your life. This is a living cosmos. Everybody is free to capture as much as they want. If you capture substantial amount of life, your very presence will become a significant life. Otherwise, you will become a mediocre life. This is the important thing. It's not the knowledge you gather in your head, it's not the muscle that you gather in your body, it's the life. How much of a life are you? This will make you significant in your very presence. If world gives us an opportunity, we'll do something impactful. Otherwise, we are just a significant presence. A huge oak tree standing outside, it is not trying to create any impact, it is just impactful. If you go under its shade, you'll feel it, otherwise also it's impactful. Most people notice it only when it's gone.
What is the impact that you want to have on the world?
When I was 25 years of age, when suddenly things burst forth within me, and I realized if I sit here without messing myself, naturally I'm bursting with ecstasy and every cell in my body drips ecstasy. I thought initially I'm going off my rocker. Then again and again when I saw over a period of 6 to 8 weeks, when I saw if I just close my eyes, I just burst into ecstatic states. So I clearly realized, if I don't mess with my physiological and psychological process, ecstasy is the only way to be. Nothing to be done, you don't have to do anything. When I realized this, I sat down and actually planned. On that day, the world's population was 5.6 billion people. I made a plan in 2.5 years' time that I will make the world ecstatic. No fool like a young fool, you know. Now, it's been 37 years, not 2.5 years. Well, people say we have touched over 500 million people or so. Don't say whoa, you don't whoa my failures.
Yeah, I guess.
Because my idea of humanity is 7.6 billion people. 500 million people, time going away, I'm condemned to die a failure, but I'm a blissful failure, all right? So, what we need is just this. Do you want to live in a beautiful world means what? Beautiful does not mean just a beautiful view of the ocean or something else. Beautiful means human life here is pleasant within every human being. The question is not about what I wear, what I drive, where I live, but how I am within myself. See, what we can do in the world is a question of times. In which time of history we exist, accordingly we do things. If we were here 100 years ago, we wouldn't be recording all this stuff, all right? We would be doing something different. But human experience is constant. Whichever generation you are, you can either be blissed out or misery. Always, forever. It has been so and it will be so. So, what we can do in the world is subject to many realities of the times. But how we can be within ourselves is always a possibility. So what is always a possibility must be manifested. Whether you will run faster than Mr. Bolt or not, whether you will climb Mount Everest or not, this is not the point. Those things are subject to individual tastes and individual likes and dislikes. But will your experience of life on this planet be pleasant or not? At least this one thing we must determine, that every human being's experience of life on this planet is pleasant. That much we must do and it's doable.
That is incredible. Sadhguru, thank you so much for being on the show. That was absolutely incredible. Thank you for your time. Guys, I can't recommend his book highly enough. Check it out, Inner Engineering, it's phenomenal. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Thank you again so much. Wow, that was really amazing.
Look at yourself in 10, 15, 20 years' time and ask yourself the question, is that where I want to be? And if the answer is no, then you need to find a new path. to just get to understand yourself. You don't know what you need in your life until you figure out who you are.
If you want to support this channel, it's simple. Whenever you need to make a purchase, access our affiliate links in the description from the affiliated stores. This simple gesture will help us a lot.
Jananam sukadham maranam karunam milanam maduram smaranam karunam kalavashadiha sakalam karunam samayadipate akilam karunam. Good afternoon, everybody. Excellencies, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, Sadhguru, and good afternoon to Your Excellencies and distinguished guests, and to all the meditators who are watching on the internet right now. I'm so grateful to be here, and it's such a privilege, really, to be here. My name is Maxwell Kennedy, and I learned how to meditate from Sadhguru a few years ago. So we're here at the United Nations, and there are maybe 40 or 60 ambassadors here in 70 different countries and 7,000 people, and we're here to talk about sustainable development. So why did you start with a chant?
The chant is an invocation. An invocation means to perform different types of activities. We need to have our energies in different ways. Otherwise, most people have become competent in one way or the other, but if you ask them to do something totally different, they will find themselves totally at loss. This is simply because their energies get directed in one way only. An invocation means you kind of make yourself malleable in such a way that for every different type of action, you need your energies in different parts of your system, and you are able to graduate that, calibrate that in such a way to perform that specific activity. So when I sit here, what we need to do is different from what I was doing when I was walking down here. So this is just calibration using sounds. If we have to know the meaning, it's talking about how birth is sweetness, but death is compassion. It's a relief. We may think death is a terrible thing, but aren't we glad that someday we will die? Suppose we could not die. That would be terrible, isn't it? Suppose we can't die at all. And above all, it is talking about yoga in the sense, the chant is describing yoga as a way of transcending time. When we say transcending time, right now we have a sense of time only because we are so identified with our physical nature. Suppose we did not have a body, we would not have any sense of time. Our body is keeping time. Everything that is time is cyclical, but yoga is a dimension which wants to transcend, which helps you to transcend these cycles and make a journey beyond cyclical nature of life, which is the nature of physical existence.
Thank you. I had a teacher at Harvard who was a medical doctor, and he told me a story that when he was a young doctor, he went down to Mississippi and he saw children there in the United States, this is in the mid-1960s, who were starving. And after that trip, he went to Washington, D.C., and he tried to meet a group of senators, and he went to one after the other, and none of them would talk to him. And on Sunday afternoon, he got my father's phone number at home. My father is Senator Robert F. Kennedy. And my sister Carrie, who runs the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial, is here right now, and my wife Vicki. So, but he got my dad's number and he called, and it was Sunday. My dad's with children, and he said to him, well, all right, why don't you come over and we'll talk. And after they spoke, my dad went to Mississippi, to where this doctor had gone, and when he came back, he wrote this, he said these words, and there are others. On the back roads of Mississippi, where thousands of children slowly starve their lives away, their minds damaged beyond repair by the age of 4 or 5. In the camps of the migrant workers, 500,000 nomads, virtually unprotected by collective bargaining or Social Security, minimum wage, or workman's compensation, exposed to the caprice of fate and the cruelty of their fellow man alike. And on Indian reservations where the unemployment rate is 80%, and where suicide is not a philosopher's question, but the leading cause of death among young people. So after that trip, my father went back to the Senate, and he worked with a group of others, and they created the first food stamps program in the United States. And that is kind of the development model that I'm used to. So when I look at the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, my immediate reaction is to think, are the Addis Ababa Accords going to fund this or not? But you have a different approach. Can you talk about yoga in that context?
So when we say sustainable development goals, we are talking about human well-being. Addressing human well-being has 17 different issues which concerns poverty, nourishment, health, women's issues, environment, this kind of thing. Essentially, we're talking about human well-being. How can you transform the world without transforming individual human beings? This is the effort that's going on in the world for a long time. We want to transform the world, but we are not aiming at individual human beings. The world is just a word. It is just you and me. If there is no transformation in you and me, if there is no change in the way we perceive, experience and think, feel and act in this world, how can you change the world? So we can pump in money, we can have projects, they will all go up and go down. But only if we transform individual human beings on a large scale, only then there will be true transformation. This is why yoga becomes a significant thing. Today, the United Nations taking up this International Yoga Day is a very important step. I would say it's a revolutionary approach, because without transforming individual human beings, you cannot really transform the world, because there is no such thing as in reality. In reality, there's just you, me and someone else. If all of us change, the world has changed. If we refuse to change, we will be only talking about it. I've been to any number of international peace conferences, and everybody's talking about world peace. In one of these conferences, where there were 17 Nobel laureates, I asked them a simple question: Is it true that all of you are truly peaceful human beings? Can you put your hand on your heart and say, I am peaceful? They admitted, no, Sadhguru, we don't know how to be peaceful, but we want the world peaceful. How is that possible? What you see as the world is just a larger manifestation of who we are.
Sadhguru, you can see all around the world, in Brazil, in the United States, in LA where I live, people are doing yoga. And when we're doing it, I'm stretching out my body and trying to control my breathing. Can you explain what yoga really is and how that can help attain the SDGs?
So this fundamental human longing for health, for well-being, for fulfillment of life, when you find a logically correct and scientifically ascertainable way, then we say this is yoga. Yoga means in pursuit of human well-being, we've been doing all kinds of things. We've been looking up for a long time, which has led to humanity being divided in the name of religions, castes, creeds,
in so many different ways. Now in the last 50 years, I would say we are looking out seriously and we are ripping the planet apart. All the environmental degradation that we are talking about is just in pursuit of human well-being. In the last 100 years, definitely, we are the most comfortable generation ever. But we cannot say we are well, because we are not really well. People are not happy, people are not peaceful. That is not happening because we have not addressed the inner nature. So when you address it in a scientific manner, rather than by belief, by philosophy, by ideologies, you address human well-being in a scientific way, this is yoga. The word yoga literally means union. When we say union, what we're talking about is, we're talking about a scientific way of obliterating the boundaries of your individuality. When I say a scientific way of obliterating the boundaries of your individual nature, what this means is, right now as we sit here, this is me, that is you, distinctly clear. But we are breathing the same air, we are a product of the same earth. What you call as myself is just a pop-up on this planet and it'll pop out. But in this little bit of time, we have divided this in such a way that we can't meet. Yoga means you obliterate these individual boundaries, not intellectually, not by belief, not by ideology, but as a living experience. We launched I mean this was there on the video, we launched a very large-scale environmental project in southern India. The fundamental for this came from this. This happened to me when I was in the university, and recently about 8 years ago, when I happened to be in my hometown, and after a very long time, one of my English teachers came up to me and said, "Now I understand why you would not let me teach Robert Frost." I said, "Ma'am, why would I not let you teach Robert Frost? I like Robert Frost." She said, "Don't you remember you didn't let me teach Frost?" Then I remembered. She came one day, till then we were reading only English poets. She came and introduced the American poet and she said, "Robert Frost, such a great man," and then she started off, "Woods are lovely, dark and deep." I said, "Stop." I said, "A man who calls a tree a wood, I don't want to listen to this guy." She said, "No, this is a very great poet." I said, "I don't care how great he is, he calls tree a wood. I don't want to listen to him." Then when we wanted to start this process in southern India, when we found that rivers were going dry and the groundwater was sinking very rapidly, when I decided we will plant 114 million trees in Tamil Nadu, the simple thing that we did was, I took thousands of people, made them sit under trees, and we set up a yogic process with which they experienced that what they're breathing out, the trees are inhaling. What the trees are exhaling, they are inhaling. And they realized 1/2 of their lungs is hanging out there. Once they realized this, there is no stopping. Even today, millions of trees are being planted on a yearly basis, all done by common people, simply because we brought this yogic experience to them, that they truly realized that 1/2 of their breathing apparatus is actually out there, not here. So, bringing this experience into people, that what you think as myself is not within the boundaries of your physical nature, it goes well beyond that. If this becomes a living reality, then fulfilling these goals that United Nations has for the world becomes much more possible than the way it is right now, where we are trying to push in one way, but a whole lot of people are pushing in the opposite direction because they don't even see it as theirs.
Thank you, Sadhguru. I wanted to point out this incredible thing about the tree planting project is that Sadhguru insisted that the trees be planted on small plots of land, less than half an acre, and half of the trees are fruit trees, and then half of them can be used for firewood, so that the people who live on these lands are benefited from them. They take care of the trees, and those trees actually really grow. And one of the things that's really working on is poverty. And when I look at the world today and I see especially in the United States, this incredible gap between people who have capital and people who don't. And it's a very disturbing sign to me, the gap between rich and poor. Can you talk a little bit about how yoga would address that in terms of sustainable development?
So we must understand this, that we have chosen an economic model which is all about everybody for himself or herself. There is no larger commitment to humanity as such, because that is market economy. Everybody does according to their own capabilities and skills and grab what they can grab. It's literally shoot and scoot economy. But we have gone for this simply because the socialistic, communistic ideas have unfortunately failed, not necessarily because they're bad, because human beings are not ready for it yet. That is, poor people who had nothing wanted to share, the rich never wanted to share, so it became a joke in the world. If rich had the consciousness to share, communism would have been a great idea, but the poor want to share, rich don't want to share. So that is the same situation here, and this is the same situation building up everywhere else in the world. Is this the best way to run the world? No. But do we have a better idea? No. So, because right now we are in that place. So the only thing that we can truly do is that we bring what we are referring to as yoga, as a living experience. Yoga does not mean twisting your body, yoga does not mean standing on your head, yoga does not mean holding your breath. Yoga means in some way you have transcended the limitations of your physical nature. You are beginning to experience life as a larger possibility, not just this physical form that you are. Once this becomes a living experience, sharing and living together will become a common experience everywhere. Does it mean we are going to start communes and everybody will live together? No, we can run businesses in a more inclusive way, we can create a more inclusive economic model, and this need not be done by government policy. This can be done by private individuals, because there are companies which are almost as large as nations today. There are companies which are bigger than nations. So it is very much possible that business can be run in a more inclusive way. Right now we are thinking only of profit. Our idea of profit is very short-term kind of idea. If you really want to run your company, if you are thinking in terms of your company prospering in the next 100, 200, 500 years continuously, then it's very important that you make your customer your partner, that you make everybody else in the society your partner. Whatever you're manufacturing or whatever you're selling or whatever the business sees, whether you're selling a safety pin or a computer or a spacecraft, essentially the business is about human well-being. If this comes into the consciousness of every business person, if this comes into the consciousness of building every business, that essentially this is about human well-being. We do it in so many ways, but fundamentally it's about that. If this awareness and consciousness is instilled in the businesses on the planet, then you can find the capitalistic way of living need not mean disparity, can mean well-being to everybody.
Sadhguru, I read the other day that that for every dollar in government investment in developing countries, that there's $7 now in private investment. So how do we use yoga to yoke in the private corporations that are looking just at their bottom line to end up really having development that's fair and just?
In the last 20 years, I have largely focused on the business leaders, because there was a time a few hundred years ago where the most influential leadership on the planet was religious leadership. Later on, when the military machines built up in a big way, the military leaders dominated the world. In the last 100 years, democratically elected leaders have become the most dominant force. In the next 15 to 25 years, you will see the business leaders will be the most important or influential leadership on the planet. The good thing about business is that a businessman is willing to make a deal if the deal is good, no matter who you are. I'm saying the old prejudice of I cannot make a deal with somebody is going away and they're willing to make a deal. Now, anything is sustainable only if it is beneficial to both the parties. Nothing can be sustained either in the marketplace or in marriage unless it's beneficial to both the parties. Only when it's truly beneficial to both the parties, this can be sustained. This is slowly sinking into the business leadership. I have seen in the last 20 years, prominent business leaders, their way of thinking is very, very different than what it was. My essential work has been to move individual leaders from their personal ambitions to a larger vision, because a larger vision means then the business is sustainable for a long period of time. If it's just your personal ambition, the world will work against you. If you have a larger vision, the world will work with you. This is a big difference. So this is something that is slowly sinking in. You will see, if you see annual meetings of major businesses, what they're talking, if you look at the World Economic Forum, if you look at various economic assemblies on the planet, you will see they're all beginning to talk about a larger vision, how to make a difference rather than how to make a profit. This has become the language of the business these days. It still has to manifest in a big way, but at least the language has changed from profit to making a difference.
Thank you. Sadhguru, when you look at societies all across the world, there's a huge gap between what's available to women and what's available to men. The Sustainable Development Goals address this. What's the role of gender equality in yoga?
See, yoga means transcending your physical nature on one level. If you transcend your physical nature, where is the question of being a male or a female? You being a male or a female is relevant only in a few spaces in your life, in bathrooms and bedrooms. Rest of the places, I don't see why you should recognize somebody as a man or a woman. Why are we identifying people with reproductory organs? If you must use a body part, at least use the brain. I think a small gender difference that is there between us to fulfill a certain aspect of our life is being stretched too far. I think this is from another period where it was not possible for a woman to participate because of variety of physical situations in the world. And that is largely leveled today in most parts of the world, and it's rapidly changing everywhere, I would say. I think a more active effort is needed, at least by law in most nations it is 100% equal. By practice, there is still discrepancies which has to be worked at. I feel it's a generational thing. Once the older generation moves out, the younger generation is not looking at it that way anymore. At least I see that in all the Asian countries. It is only people beyond 60 years of age who think in this mode. The younger people are not thinking that way anymore.
Sadhguru, I'm just going to ask you one more question because I want to save time for the audience who've been waiting to talk to you. And can you tell about how you conceive the world in 30 years?
What I see is, for the very first time in the history of humanity, human intellect is sparking like never before. More people on the planet today can think for themselves than ever before in the history of this human existence. So once human intellect begins to spark like this, unless something is logically correct and scientifically verifiable, it will fail in future. You may be willing to listen to a few things, but your children are not going to listen to anything that does not make sense to them. It does not matter from what authority it comes from. Or in other words, we are moving into an era where authority cannot be the truth.
Truth will be the only authority in future. We are getting there because everybody is beginning to ask questions and people are not afraid to ask questions anymore, so this is bound to happen. Once this happens, human aspiration for well-being has to have a logically correct and scientifically ascertainable methodology, and it's of tremendous importance that today the International Yoga Day has been declared in the last 1 year. It was mooted by the Prime Minister, but it was almost like the world was waiting for it. As they mentioned, 177 countries, never before in the history of United Nations, all of them agreed upon one thing as they agreed upon yoga. It looked like they were waiting for it. Yes, the world has been waiting for a scientific and a logically correct solution for human well-being. The aspiration for human well-being will not stop. Unless we provide a proper scientifically structured methodology, then people in terms of well-being will move towards chemicals. This is a grave concern in the world. The number of people moving towards alcohol and drugs in the last 25 years must be maybe 500 to 1000% more than what it was 25 years ago. This is mainly because in pursuit of human well-being, there are no logically correct answers to their questions. That is the reason why human beings are seeking these kind of solutions. Unless we provide this is a natural progression. I see in the next 30 years to 50 years, there will be a big movement towards a scientific process for inner well-being. And this is the right time to be here at this forum and this yoga becoming a worldwide thing. We must understand yoga is not an Indian thing. If you want to call yoga Indian, then you must call gravity European, okay? Because yes, it originated from that place, because India is one place where for a few millennia we had uninterrupted time to look deep inwards and to look at the human mechanism in utmost profoundness as to how this functions, what is the ultimate possibility within this human mechanism. This has taken a few millennia to understand and arrive at this possibility. And yoga, I want this message to go, the science of yoga is not just about health, it's not just about fitness, it is an ultimate solution for every aspect of human existence. There is different types of yogas, yoga can be taught in different dimensions. The ultimate possibility of raising beyond our physical nature, the ultimate possibility of knowing life in its fullest way. The word yoga means union. The word yogi means one who has experienced this union. We need not 1, 2, 5 yogis, we need millions of them who have a sense of union with the rest of the universe, particularly those who hold responsible positions in the world. They must come to this experience because leadership essentially means you have the privilege of touching other people's lives. What you think, what you feel and what you do, every single thought, emotion and action either makes or breaks people's lives. That's what leadership means. When you are given such a privilege, it's very, very important that you are in a state of yoga, that you experience life around you as yourself. If any of us feel the work that we are doing is important, the first and foremost thing is we must work upon ourselves.
It gives me deep honor and pleasure to first give the floor to Under-Secretary General, Ambassador Vijay Nambiar, who will also be delivering a message on behalf of the Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon.
I shall just be delivering the message of the Secretary General on tomorrow's International Day of Yoga. Yoga is an ancient physical, mental and spiritual practice that originated in India and is now practiced in various forms around the world. The word yoga derives from Sanskrit and means to join to or to unite, symbolizing the union of body and consciousness. Yoga balances body and soul, physical health and mental well-being. It promotes harmony among people and between ourselves and the natural world. Recognizing its universal appeal, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed 21st June as the International Day of Yoga. This year's observance of the International Day of Yoga highlights the important role healthy living plays in the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals adopted last year by all 193 United Nations member states. As exercise, yoga has multiple benefits. Physical inactivity is linked with a number of non-communicable diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases, which are among the leading causes of illness and death worldwide. By improving fitness, teaching us how to breathe correctly, and working to diminish stress, yoga can help to cultivate healthier lifestyles. Practicing yoga can also help raise awareness of our role as consumers of the planet's resources and as individuals with a duty to respect and live in peace with our neighbors. All these elements are essential to building a sustainable future of dignity and opportunity for all. On the International Day of Yoga tomorrow, I urge everyone to embrace healthier choices and lifestyles and to commit to unity with our fellow human beings, regardless of ethnicity, faith, age, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Let us celebrate this day and every day as members of one human family, sharing one common, precious home. Thank you.
May I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Bangladesh. Sir.
We deeply appreciate the Indian government's initiative to have the International Day of Yoga. We have learnt a lot from the yoga masters, especially the perspective as to how yoga can contribute in the attainment of global peace, sustainable future, and in turn the realization of the SDGs. What I understand, without peace of mind and harmony in the body, how can we think we can change the world? First, we have to change our own world, by which what I mean is how we live, breathe, eat, think and aspire. If we are not fit for the purpose of contributing to sustainable peace in the world, we will remain as bystanders and not as active agents of change. I can share my own personal story with my colleagues and others present here. I had been suffering from a very bad bout of sciatica problem for the last 2 months. At times the pain was debilitating. I have gone through serious pain medication followed by physical therapy and acupuncture. In fact, I am just coming here from my 6th session of acupuncture treatment. I realized that I suffered this problem because of